conversation around the Department of Education is loud. And for parents of kids with IEPs, it can feel scary, confusing, and even a little bit destabilizing. You might be wondering, are my child's rights going to go away? Is the IEP still going to be protected? And who makes sure that schools are actually going to follow through? So today, I wanted to break all of that down for you. What's changing, what's not changing, and most importantly, what you can do to protect and support your child no matter what happens. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Ria. I'm an educational advocate and consultant who works directly with families to navigate IEPs, school teams, and special education systems. And here's the biggest thing that I really want you to hear before we go any further. The laws that protect your child, IDEA, FAPE, and your child's right to their IEP, those are all federal laws, and they have not disappeared overnight. They are still in place. What's shifting right now, though, is it's not the law, it's the conversation around oversight and enforcement of that law. And honestly, even without headline changes, enforcement has historically always been the hardest part of special education. So let's zoom out for a second. Federal oversight exists because, like I said, historically, states and sometimes the individual districts themselves were not consistently following the special education law. So the federal agencies, the federal government stepped in to say that every child deserves a free and appropriate public education, and disabilities cannot exclude students from access. Schools also must provide individualized support through an IEP for students who are eligible. Oversight was created to ensure that someone was checking in on these and making sure that they were happening. So now the question that's kind of on everyone's mind is that if federal enforcement shifts, who is going to make sure that schools are still following the law? And the answer here is that some of that will shift down to states, some of it shifts to districts, and some of it, if we're really being very realistic about the situation, some of it is going to shift onto parents and to advocates. So here really is the mindset shift that we want to have moving forward. This isn't the time to panic because panic is not going to help anybody. This is the time that we really want to be informed, we want to be organized, and we really want to be strategic about how we are advocating and how we are getting those supports. Because when enforcement gets blurry, documentation becomes even more powerful than it already is. When systems feel uncertain, clarity becomes your leverage. And when accountability isn't guaranteed from above, voices become louder from below. You do matter in this process, and I want you to know that. You matter so much more than you've probably ever been told from the schools, the districts, things like that. Your voice matters in your child's education, and now more than ever is the time to use it. So let's talk about action. There are so let's talk about action. There are a lot of different things that you can do, but I really want to talk about five very specific actions that you can take right now to help make a real impact. The first one that I want you to do is I want you to read your child's IEP. Don't just skim through it, actually read it. Know the services, goals, accommodations, minutes, data collection, expectations, all of these things. Really get to know and understand your child's IEP. If you need help with that, I've got trainings, I've got resources, I've got my program Advocacy in Action that teaches you all of the intimate IEP details. But you don't have to do that. Whatever you do, whatever process you use, just make sure that you really truly know your child's IEP. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you document whatever is working. Now, a lot of times we focus on what isn't working or where we need more support, but it's equally as important to make sure that you get down what is working, not just what isn't. Because good support and support that works deserves to follow your child forward. We don't want that to end when the school year ends. We want that to keep moving with your child. And the third thing kind of goes along with this, which is to document what is not working. We want to make sure that we're documenting it, though, with facts and not with feeling. whenever we say something like, I feel like this isn't working, that doesn't necessarily get that concern taken as seriously, right? Something that you could say instead, how to lead with the facts, you could say something like, but since September 3rd, speech services have been missed 6 times, or we have not received any documentation of data collection towards, my child's progress, things like that. You want to stick with really concrete, objective facts as you're advocating. And the fourth thing is to communicate in writing whenever possible. Emails create paper trails. Phone calls, they don't necessarily mean anything unless you have them written down. So if there is a phone call that takes place, if there is an in-person conversation that takes place, and any conversation that takes place outside of writing, you want to follow that up with an email. So, hi, Miss Teacher, really appreciate you speaking with me after school today. I just want to follow up to summarize our meeting. In the conversation, we talked about X, Y, and Z. Please let me know if there's anything else you think of. I don't know. That was a very quick draft, but hopefully that kind of gets my point across of you really just want to make sure that whatever communication is taking place, you have it documented somewhere. If you haven't already sensed a theme here, documentation is really key to success when it comes to advocating for your child. Now, the last thing I want you to do, the last tip here I have, is to approach the school team as collaborators first, when possible. I know there are situations that are already heated or argumentative or just not collaborative. And sometimes those can be repaired and we can get back to a collaborative place. But sometimes we do have to pursue things like a state complaint. But whenever possible, we really want to lead with collaboration. Not because you shouldn't hold boundaries, we still should be doing that, but because cooperation solves these problems and addresses concerns a lot faster than combat, especially when everyone's acting in good faith and we all are truly there to support that child. Now, I do want to be really clear here. This is key. Collaboration does not mean letting anything slide. It does not mean just saying, like, oh, sure, that's okay. It does not mean accepting excuses in place of services. But what collaboration does mean is that we're going to work together whenever possible. We escalate when necessary, but either way, we're documenting it. If your child's services are missing, goals aren't being worked on, data isn't being collected, or access is being denied, that's not a collaboration moment at all. That is a moment for documentation and accountability. And really learning to recognize the difference is important here too. But I want you to know that most of the time, in my experience as an advocate, as a special education teacher, and even in my time as RTI coordinator, where I was, training teachers and kind of bridging that gap between the school and families, no matter what the experience was, the strongest outcomes happen when a parent is prepared and they have what they need to address, they have their concerns. And when that parent meets a willing team, that is absolutely unstoppable. And that's the collaboration that I want all of the families that I work with to be at that level. Preparation really is where your power lies. So the more prepared you can be, the better you're going to feel and the better those outcomes are going to be. While we're talking about tips and tricks and how to really advocate with confidence, there is something that I really want to normalize here. Most parents, when trying to advocate for their kiddos, they aren't struggling in advocacy because they don't care or they're not trying hard enough or anything like that. Most parents struggle because there's too many emails, too many reports, too much of everything everywhere, too many different terms and jargon, and too many meetings, too many emotions, and all of this with too little organization. And it's not necessarily your fault. This stuff comes at parents from every different direction. And it's really not you. It's not that you're, confused or not caring about your child. It's that you're overloaded with all of this stuff. And An overwhelmed parent doesn't need more pressure, right? And I don't want to put that pressure of advocating on you when you're feeling overwhelmed. I want to give you a system to help you with it and to help you not have to go through the struggle that I did when I first started teaching of trying to get all this stuff organized, right? I built out systems when I was teaching and when I was working with students that I want to pass along to you so you can feel organized. You can organize like a pro, prep like a pro. Which brings me to something that I created just for you, for anyone who's watching here. I put together a free IEP organization guide for any parent that wants to show up informed, prepared, and confident without spending hours and hours and hours reinventing the wheel. The guide that I put together for you, it will help you with just keeping track of all the things and reminding you maybe of some documents that might be missing or that you've been meaning to request or that you still need to put in the binder or whatever. But it also helps you with figuring out how you're going to track services and accommodations, organizing your evaluations and progress data and all that stuff. Preparing for meetings without panic, right? Because you have an idea of all the things that you'll need going in. And this also can help you with documenting patterns. Now, this is just a guide to different documents, but it gives you some ideas of how this information and these documents and this data can be really helpful for you um, and helpful for showing your concerns or showing those patterns, whether they're good patterns or bad patterns, right? All data is information. It's neither really good nor bad. It's just information that helps us move forward. And all of this to say, this is ultimately to help you advocate with clarity, with those facts over feelings, with that confidence over that chaotic, stressed out, confused, overwhelmed feeling. Strong advocacy does not have to be loud, angry advocacy. It's being prepared. It's having that confidence and walking in with that attitude of collaboration. Whenever you walk into a meeting organized, that changes the entire conversation and it helps get us to real supportive outcomes for our kiddos. So I hope that clears some things up. But I also really want to give you permission for something. You don't have to be an expert in special education law to advocate. You don't have to speak like a lawyer in meetings, and you don't have to know everything. You just need to understand the rights, know the IEP, track the data and the evidence, show up consistently, and most of all, communicate clearly. That formula beats any sort of intimidation anytime. If you take nothing else away from this video, take this. Your If you take nothing else away from this video, here are the few things that I really want you to take away. Number one, your child's protections did not vanish. The system may be changing, but that doesn't mean that the system has collapsed. And your role in this process has so much more impact than you think. If you want support with getting organized so that you can advocate with confidence instead of anxiety, you can grab that free guide that I mentioned earlier below. It's linked in the description. There's no catch, no gatekeeping, just a tool to help anchor yourself whenever you have a noisy moment. And as always, if you want more support, more breakdowns like this, you have questions, or you want help walking through your specific IEP questions, subscribe, stick with me. This is what I do here. You do not have to have all of the answers. You just have to stay anchored in the mission, right? We have a mission for our kids, and that's that free and appropriate public education. That's access, that's support, that's dignity and progress for your child. We can do this. And we're not going to stay in fear. We're going to do this through strategy. And we're not going to do this alone. We're going to do this together. I will see you in the next one. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, let me know. You can also head to my profile and book a free consultation. And do not forget to grab that free guide below.